Yes. Okay. We're going to keep going. Live
do we
is
have no
live.
audio from me?
Well, I have audio from you, but the attendees are saying no audio. But we'll sort this in just a second here. If someone's on the stream and can hear us, can you hear me now? Let's hope so. Live is live. Okay, we should be good. Someone on the live stream lets us know. Now you have audio. Thank you, WCP. By the way, nice to see you. All right, now let's get started. I am in Ohio, and I've got my panelists here from South Carolina, Florida, and Massachusetts. I got producers in Georgia, Texas, and also in Ohio, but I want to know where you all are tuning in from. Let us know in the chat, but let's start first up with my first panelist, Tom Seitler. First time on the stream. Welcome. Tom, give me a quick intro about your role here at Veeam.
Thanks, Rick. I appreciate it. So again, my name is Tom Seitler. I am VP of Product Management here at Veeam. I work really heavily with our enterprise customers. Been at Veeam about 12 years. Spent almost all of that time working with customers. Been in product management the last 4 years or so. So appreciate it.
Yeah, no, outstanding. And friends, Tom is one of those tough love critics. I tell you, he will tell you what is up with the products and how he really thinks, and tell you, this man, he drives innovation in our products, no doubt. All right, next up, I want to introduce a new friend in the space, Anthony Cusimano from Object First. Welcome, Anthony.
Thanks for having me, Rick. What's going on, y'all? Anthony Cusimano. I'm the Director of Technical Marketing at Object First, but I just tell everyone I'm the Object First hype man, because let's be real, it's all about that energy. I'm happy to bring it here today.
Oh, man, that's a hard one to live down. All right. Next up is Jason Garbus from Numberline Security. Welcome, Jason.
All right. Thank you, Rick, and thanks. I'm really excited about having this conversation today. So I am founder and principal here at Numberline Security, a consulting firm focused on helping enterprises define, prepare for, and execute on effective zero trust strategies. And I'm really excited about the work that we've done collaborating with Anthony and Tom on defining this thing called zero trust data resilience and how it applies to a Veeam environment.
Outstanding. Thank you, Jason. And right there, ZTDR, Zero Trust Data Resilience, or if I start slipping with ZTDR, that's what we're going to talk about. But just because I'm breaking the rules today, I have to break yet another rule. Tom, big hats off to your colleagues in Veeam Product Management. Today ended up being launch day for 12.1 or the Veeam Data Platform 23H2 release. Let's go over to the slide real quick. I am kind of taking over the content here today. Over at Veeam.com, everyone, you can get a good rundown of what's up and what's new with 12.1. But Tom, I'll just put you on the spot here. If you had to pick one new capability for 12.1 that's your favorite, what would that be?
I think it probably has to be the proactive threat hunting, the ability to go out and find, threats in your environment, and also the extension of that into the entire security ecosystem. It's really hard for me to pick just one because the whole product is so focused on security, but that's probably the one for me.
Yeah, and like as I'm scrolling through this list here, friends, there's a lot of technology in there. The malware detection, the threat center. I actually feel one of my favorite things of the release actually doesn't have to do with the security side of it, which so much of 12.1 is. My favorite is the object storage as a source for backups. And Tom, you might remember several years ago, I'm asking you passionately for this to come in.
I knew that was going to be yours. I knew it.
Yes, I've been asking for years, and I'm so happy to finally have object storage as a source. All right, thank you, Gurov. Super excited for 12.1. Outstanding. Yeah, we've got some good interaction here. Awesome. All right, so if you didn't catch the news, 12.1 went available today. I just wanted to hijack the stream here for a little bit because, friends, if you watched the Veeam On Resiliency Summit, if you watched Veeam On, we had all these previews leading up to today. So you're listening to the Veeam feed, the Veeam stream. I wanted to relay this important set of news about 12.1. And look at that. We're even sneaking zero trust architecture into that. Ooh. I didn't even catch that, but zero trust is already in there. But I like ZTDR, Zero Trust Data Resilience. I want to drive everyone's attention to a paper, and that is in the topic here today, ZTDR. And when we say ZTDR, that means Zero Trust Data Resilience. And we worked with a number of experts, really everyone on this call, and most specifically, Jason from Numberline Security. So I'm going to start with a high-level question for you, Jason. Zero Trust is a name that's used a lot by the vendors in the world, but tell us the history, because I grew up with Zero Trust thinking about like a network architecture. Am I right? Walk me through from that to where we are now in a Zero Trust world.
Sure thing. And I think you're the first person who's told me they've grown up with Zero Trust. So that's pretty amazing. And not quite sure what it means for your interpersonal relationships, but that's a topic for another time. So Zero Trust really today has become a giant trend and almost a tidal wave in the industry, or a sea change, I should say. And what it's really doing is taking the set of security best practices that we know of and integrating them and weaving them together in a way that is fairly unique, because it breaks down the traditional silos that we've had that has, in my opinion, been the source of a lot of problems between the gap that's traditionally existed between networks and identity. And you've had these silos of network security and firewall rules, then you have identities, and you have some degree of identity and device context. And what Zero Trust says is we need to look at this holistically. We need to have a rich policy model that lets us define access policies using language that's easy to understand. These individuals in these groups on these devices are or aren't allowed to access these resources under these circumstances. And that applies not only to humans, but also to non-human entities. So diving into this, one of the things that we came up with as we did this research was this notion of the backup management system itself is an entity. It has an identity. It needs to be authenticated, and it needs to have its access controlled on the network. Because if it gets compromised, the malicious actors could take over and access everything. And that's one of the number one things we want to stop. So Zero Trust is really around tying all these best practices together in a way that uniquely bridges gaps and allows us to have much, much more effective security architectures than we have had traditionally. Applying it to the data backup and resilience area has been actually a really interesting process, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack with what you just brought there, Jason. Number one, I love the frequent use of plurals and just elements and domains of authorization, or you could say domains of failure. And we're going to go into some pictures here to walk through that. But just got word from the producers that the map is ready. And thank you for all of you who let us know where you're tuning in from. And so, whoa, we've got Canada, California, Nevada, Texas, South Carolina, Georgia, and we had some others in Ohio and Atlanta as well. We've got, let's see, Brazil. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. I guess that would be Massachusetts, and then that would be Connecticut and Canada. Let's go to South America. And in South America, let's see, we had Brazil. Hey, Beth. We had Argentina and Peru, I think, if my map intelligence is right. Let's switch over to Europe. Let's see what we've got there. I've got a list over here. I guess I could look at that. We've got Germany, Spain, France, Switzerland, Estonia. Estonia might be the first live for me, so welcome those of you tuning in from Estonia. Argentina, Brazil, and Peru already did that. Nigeria, Saudi, and Pakistan. Welcome. And again, if we didn't get your your U.S. state or your country, drop it in the chat. I'm seeing India. I'm seeing Romania come in. Let us know where you're from. We'll come back to the map if production permits. This is a great crowd. Lot of people tuning in. All right. So ZTDR, great setup for where we're going to go with that from Jason. And then I want to talk about one way that we can do this without a new Microsoft feature. I'll dismiss that. Thank you. But Anthony, I'll put you on the spot here. You first of all, you made the slide, so I'll let you talk about it. We've done some work with you at Object First over the year or two after V12, leading up to and after V12. But when we look at ZTDR applied to how the storage, comes into play, or the bigger picture, walk me through this slide and how you've approached it.
Yeah, so it's, for me, I didn't grow up with Zero Trust the way Jason did, but I do have an uncle who I think really fits the Zero Trust mold as like a tinfoil hat wearing Florida man. it kind of applies, right? Like if you think about the principles here, least privilege access, you have to assume at all times that the amount of access you have can compromise you. Live in a little bit of state of paranoia here for users, applications, devices. Everything is a weak point in a larger connected chain. And principle number 2, don't implicitly trust, right? So if we assume that we're, in this place where any account, any device can fail, then we need to wrap that with different kinds of IAM, MFA, policy enforcement points, policy decision points. All of these lead up to better ways that we can verify and trust that people are, or devices are, applications are who they say they are. And then lastly, and certainly not leastly, and this one I think definitely fits the mold of my uncle, just assume at all times you're breached, right? Like if you live in this state of constant paranoia, you'll never be surprised. And I say it a little bit in jest, but truthfully, when you think and have the mindset of compromise and you assume that there is something in your infrastructure, you look at all of your data in a completely different way. Because at any point in time, that could be exposed, that could be public, it could be encrypted, locked out. Any number of terrible things could happen. But when you live with this level of paranoia, like many of us do, suddenly managing it, taking control of it, and thinking about how it can be used becomes a practice versus something that oh crap, we've been compromised, now we have to react. It's really simple when you think about it, but these principles sort of outline the foundation of zero trust. And I got to give credit to Jason and Tom before we move into the next slide. What we've come up with as a team here, I think takes this and enhances it to the next degree.
I agree. It is enhancing it. And I want to drive over to the paper real quick because I don't want to say I'm stealing the highlight here, but zero trust, as Jason explained the big picture, and I think I'm never going to live down the grow up with. I think what I meant above all is as I started with rather than have grown up with. But these principles of ZTDR, I think, and these are in the paper that we have produced. Maybe Felicia, if you can you push that link out into the stream so everybody can see it? That would be awesome if you did. We did just publish this paper, and I love these principles. And when we think about how that applies here, the first question is who came up with these 5 principles, these 6 principles here? Was that Jason? Was that collaborative? I think this is gold right here.
Yeah, it was definitely collaborative. A lot of conversations with Anthony and Tom and I based on the core zero trust ideas that came out of the NIST and CISA, but really in the industry. And then as we debated and discussed this and looked at how do we extend this, how do we apply this to the data backup and recovery arena, we realized, there's some really important things that we want to communicate so that when security teams and when storage and data teams start to apply zero trust to their world, these are the things that need to flow through, and they make sure they include in their architecture and their approaches.
And Rick, yeah. I would actually just add something there. I like to say that many backup practitioners were some of the first zero trust people that existed, right? Because in backup, we've always said we want to keep immutability, tape, right? Tape. We did tape 25 years ago. That was immutable storage that we took off-site, right? We wanted to be resilient against restore so we could bring it back. We validated those tapes. We did verifies. If you're a data practitioner and especially a backup practitioner, you've been zero trust for a long time. So maybe that's why you grew up with zero trust.
Yeah, and I don't trust the developers to tell me what's production, so I'm going to back everything up. And another thing is least privilege access. I don't want the right people or the wrong people tuning into the backup system to take a look at this. Recovery validation, proactive validation. I'm thinking Sure Backup and the like. We had a question come in from Alexandre. I get confused on this as a industry standard certification or qualification. Would any of this apply to any program at Veeam? And so, Alexandre, no. At this time, I would say this isn't manifested itself into, say, the Veeam CE program. I would put, and I'll throw this over to Jason and Tom here in a second. I would put this as, architecture level experience on implementations and stuff like that. But at this time, I'm not really seeing it as a certification journey. Would any of the three of you have any thoughts on that?
I would just say that from what we, so we've kind of worked on developing these core principles. Jason really did a great job laying them out. And now as Veeam, and our partners, we're starting to look at how can we apply our technologies and our capabilities to truly be able to, deliver on the concepts that are actually outlined in this paper. And so you'll see pieces of this get into things like the VMC, but it itself is not a certification. But the principles that are here will be applied to that architecture and those types of technologies.
That's right.
Go ahead, Jason. Sorry.
Sure. It's a strategy, a security strategy, and a security philosophy. And there are a couple of places in the industry where there are zero trust certifications. The Cloud Security Alliance just released their certificate in zero trust competency, and there are also some elements that are coming out of the federal government to help federal agencies who have a zero trust mandate apply and measure themselves against it, especially this zero trust maturity model that came out of CISA. So it's definitely a philosophy, and I'm excited about what Tom and team have baked into and are continuing to build inside the Veeam platform that helps your enterprise customers move forward with their zero trust maturity.
Well, that's fantastic, Jason, that the Cloud Security Alliance has a credential out for it, because that's a very nice kind of official indication, along with practical experience and showing up on streams like this to learn more. So I think that's outstanding. So thank you all for that. If I look at this, right, immutability sticks out to me, of course, as one of the go-tos that we've had and such. And, protecting the root operating system. In fact, I kind of chuckle. I've been zero trust for a long time because I keep losing passwords to important things, right? So I can't get in. If I look at this, Anthony, and I know this is kind of something you all are taking at Object First really seriously, but anything stick out here for you as like a must-have for people?
Yeah, it's a really great question, Rick. And I think the thing that we learned when we were building this is not all immutability is created equal, right? Like a lot of devices and storage types will claim immutability out there. And there's different kinds of immutability that we've learned. There's governance immutability, meaning there is a governing administrative role that can still access, manage, and turn off the immutability if they'd like. And there's compliance, which is something that is set. And once it is, it cannot be unset. It's totally time-based. The important thing to take away, and I think this pairs really well with the question that was asked, is while it's not something you can ever get certified or learn how to do on your own or have a stamp on your badge that says, hey, I'm immutability ready, it's something to look at very intimately when it comes to your backup storage, right? Because if your immutability can be turned off, if there is some kind of access that leads to that compromise, that's one more hole that the bad actors can use to get in and then do damage to the data. And backup data is the most precious data because it's your last line of defense. So we're very big at Object First in the idea of zero access to root, meaning that we believe that even the most privileged admin and user of our product should not have the ability to get any kind of administrative ability to delete or do any damage to the data. And it's a different way of doing things. For some, it might feel like an assault on their privilege as an admin, but it's all in good faith, right? Like we really believe that there has to be validation and verification when it comes to being able to actually manipulate, change, or even like factory reset your device.
Yeah, so fair shout. I agree with all of that. We're going to transition over to the next slide with the picture. But first, one final look at the map here. And we've got some new entries. North Carolina, Illinois, Michigan. Good luck in the BCS. I'm rooting for you, Michigan. Go blue. Down in Central America, we've got Guatemala tuning in. Welcome. And then over in Europe, we've added Slovenia, Romania, and Turkey. And then over in the SAARC region, we have added India. And I am glad that you are spending, I'm thinking it's like it snuck in if I didn't call that the last time. So welcome everyone. We love these big streams with a lot of engagement. All right, so Anthony, I'm going to put you back on the spot because on the list here, you are one that actually makes a piece of hardware, and that is critical to where Veeam Backup Storage sits, right? Veeam is super software or super hardware agnostic for those of you who aren't familiar with it, but the backups have to go somewhere. So Anthony, walk us through, what does this ZTDR architecture look like the way you've presented it here with Object First?
So the thing I want to call attention to just off the cuff is the little bug, right? It's cute, but it's bad. It implies that there is a breach in the specific piece of infrastructure where it resides. And you'll know everything is breached, right? On this document, there is no single place that can't not be compromised. Love double negatives. The important thing to take away here is that we are creating a segmented architecture where the backup software stands alone, our primary target stands alone, and then our secondary capacity tier also stands alone. By segmenting out each of these individual pieces, we create more ways to recover. And by utilizing a target appliance that takes advantage of what we talked about previously, that zero access to root, true immutability that can't be altered or turned off, you're just creating better ways to recover when those breaches occur. And in our last little piece there's lots of different options: public cloud, service provider, secondary data center. The great thing about options is when you have different infrastructures and you have different architectures, the way one thing gets breached doesn't mean that everything is compromised with it. So variance is key. Being able to test every single step of this is a big important thing to me. I always say, don't wait for the attack to happen. Test it. Pretend it's already there. And this architecture is what we believe to be the best way to ensure recoverability at all costs.
So a lot to unpack there. And the first thing I want to do is field a question that just came in from Jashawn, and I apologize to Jashawn if I did not land that name right. Jashawn's comment is immutability is only limited to object storage and sober. I'd say not so fast. For one, that's this example. There is immutability with the Veeam hardened repository. There is immutability with Veeam cloud service providers. There is immutability with tape marked as worm. I call that immutable. So there's a lot of what I call ultra resilient storage options. But if I look at technology trends, I'm putting my money on object storage, and there's so much to unpack there. But I want to take that diagram and then ask Jason to kind of look at this version of a similar thing. So Jason, just like Anthony kind of walked through that previous diagram, this is in the white paper that we just shared out in the link. Jason, walk me through this type of view.
Okay, and there's clearly a little bit of alphabet soup here, so we'll talk through that. So the key to understand in this is the way that a zero trust architecture works is you have the brain of the system, what's called the policy decision point, or PDP, and you can see that up at the top. And that's the component that makes the decisions about whether a given identity should be allowed to access a resource at this point in time. And it does that based on two things. One is it bridges to the enterprise's identity and access management system for the actual authentication, and it utilizes its policy store, its instructions that tell it, here's how you should make a decision. And then what you have are these policy enforcement points, or PEPs. And you can see these are all over the network, and that's by design. A key principle of zero trust is to put these policy enforcement points as close as possible to the resources that they're protecting. Now, these are logical pictures. There's lots of products and lots of architectures and lots of technologies behind these PEPs, but conceptually, they're all sitting in line and controlling and allowing or disallowing access from a given entity to a given set of resources. And what you can see here is we have a fairly segmented architecture where the backup management system in the middle, it can't actually get to the source of the data unless that traffic goes through a PEP, and therefore the policy applies. Same thing for its access to any of the backup storage locations, whether it's the on-premises primary storage or the off-premises remote secondary locations. In all cases, the policy model applies, and the zero trust system looks at the context of the request and makes the decision, how confident am I that this really is the backup management system? Is it doing something that's allowed? Has it been acting anomalously and perhaps trying to do things that it's not supposed to do, which should be a warning signal for me that that perhaps we should quarantine it. So what this is showing us is a distributed architecture with policy enforcement points, centralized control and decision in the policy decision point, And you can see very easily how this maps to architectures like what we saw previously.
Yeah, outstanding, Jason. And I think that approach is super important because so many data centers, clouds, and data that sources that we care about, the only thing consistent is that they're inconsistent. And Veeam is super flexible, can deploy to so many different environments. And I'll throw the question over to you, Tom, the Veeam guru in the mix. Any comments that you would have to both the approach here that Anthony highlighted, and then kind of the zero trust pure approach here? Anything you would add?
I think I would just talk about, honestly, what you've already highlighted, that flexibility in architecture that Veeam kind of comes to the table with. The fact that we don't dictate to you exactly what zero trust should look like for your environment. We actually support, you mentioned many of the different immutable options we support. We've also in 12.1 added support for some of our partners as well, like data domain retention lock. We've had store once immutability. We've extended that to store once backup copies. So we've got capabilities that are whatever the vendor choice is, whatever your choice is, we allow those vendors to kind of plug in. And that includes whether it's a cloud, solution, you want to do everything run in cloud natively, you want to go to native S3 backups in AWS, they're there. You want to run on-premise and pair with Object First and have a simple, fast performance solution, that option is there. But that flexibility and you can mix and match these. It's not even a point of choosing just one. You can mix and match these in your environment, use one for your primary, one for your copy. It's about giving choice and allowing that environment to flexibly implement zero trust however you would like to do it in your organization. And I think that's our biggest differentiator.
Yeah, and I think what's important to note is the mission and the message that we're bringing out here with ZTDR is that these layers, these different enforcement and decision points that Jason highlighted, I think with the plurality of the different points here, you're given a very robust approach to the copies of this data with immutability, with the different performance enforcement points and policy decision points. Sorry, policy, not performance. It might be performant as well. We'll take performance. But Anthony, on the last slide here, anything you want to add about, kind of what you see in the market and the approach you've taken?
Yeah, there's this new trend for these sort of singular backup and storage appliance that's popped up recently. And we also see a lot of these cloud deployments, right, where it's either a virtual appliance all in one, or there's some little bit of separation. The key thing to look out for with both of these cases, again, is that segmentation. When one is breached, all can be breached. And if you're operating in a singular environment, you've essentially hosed it all. And that's doubly true for the cloud use case, where the IAM can be compromised. The ESX, if you're running VMware in the cloud, can be compromised, or even the virtual machine. The level of compromise that can occur, and then the level of lockout that follows, can be devastating or just frustrating. And in either case, it's not good. So we did just want to highlight this new trend we're seeing and throw some caution out there when it comes to these types of deployments.
Yeah, fair shout. And for everyone, draw your traffic, your attention to Veeam.com. We've got I call it the academic white paper that Jason authored with some feedback from Veeam and others like Anthony. And I think that's a very good mindset, a really good start. And I'd go one step further, Jason. I'd say no one's ever done with zero trust. It's a continual motion. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, it's absolutely a journey. It's, as a security philosophy and mindset, it's the lens through which you view the world. And it can take organizations to a much better place, but it is something that you continue to do and continue to improve on every day.
Outstanding. So, hey, Jason, thank you so much for joining us here on the live stream, and outstanding work on the ZTDR paper. We'll make sure the link has already been pushed through, but make sure everyone checks that out at Veeam.com. Anthony Cusimano, you always keep me sharp and keep it fun, and thank you so much for joining on the stream today.
Thanks for having me, Rick. Love being here.
And Your Honor, Tom Seitler. All hail. On launch day at that, we got Tom Seitler. Thank you, Tom, for joining us here on the live stream.
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate it.
All right. On Thursday, the Tech Byte stream is kind of back, but taken over a different way. We have the Veeam 100 show where Falco and Zane are going to be hosted by Emily on the Veeam product strategy team, talking about creating a data bunker. That sounds cool. Check that one out. And we have launch day, like I said. So Felicia is going to push out in the streams a YouTube video of what's new for the 12.1 23H2 release. And friends, I got to give a big thanks to Jeffrey, Mark, Felicia. These marketing, social media, and video professionals bring this stuff to me. I'm going to click thumbs up all over on the stream because I could not do these streams without them. So thank you all for watching, and we will see you next week on the other show, which I forget the title, but Thursday is the Veeam 100 show. Have a great week, everyone.
In 2023, innovation fueled every industry, from renewable energy to space travel, all powered by data. The world runs on data. It's worth more than oil, and inherent value brings inherent risk. Natural disasters, accidents, and ransomware attacks are increasingly prevalent. Years of globally impactful work can be erased in an instant. But not with us. With Veeam, your enterprise becomes radically resilient. We give you the power to restore any workload, anywhere, anytime, instantly, so you can meet every challenge head-on. There's a reason over 80% of Fortune 500 companies work with us. We provide comprehensive recovery with tailored solutions that scale with you. When you partner with a global leader in data protection and ransomware recovery, you can bounce forward. Veeam. Radical resilience starts here.